The female guest didn't notice at all that in the cabin next door, someone was secretly watching her every move through a small crack in the wall. When her denim shorts slid down to the floor, the captain in the adjacent room realized that what he was doing was inappropriate. He quickly looked away, but his gaze still uncontrollably returned to her. At that moment, the once gentle and delicate woman suddenly became stiff and eerie in her movements. She began to tear off her own skin. Then, a blinding white light emerged from underneath her skin. However, his actions were immediately noticed by the woman. The captain quickly stumbled backward and fell to the floor. The woman hurriedly wrapped herself in a bathrobe, rushed out of her cabin and called her companions, blocking the door to the captain's control room. Jack rushed into the cockpit, trying desperately to start the ship and escape, but the ship had malfunctioned, and no matter what he tried, it wouldn't start. Seeing this, the woman could only step forward and try to explain, but unexpectedly, her actions only made Jack more agitated. It wasn't until then that her companions realized that the woman's skin wasn't properly secured. Jack was completely horrified when he saw this. He never imagined that these people who rented the boat were all monsters wearing human skin. Without hesitation, Jack jumped into the sea to escape, but with no way to travel in the vast ocean, where could he possibly run? Moreover, those renting the boat didn't seem to have any intention to harm him. So, Jack tried to calm himself down, and eventually, after being persuaded by them, he reluctantly returned to the ship. Fearing that they might hurt him, he panicked and begged them to spare his life, while also offering to waive their boat rental fees. Seeing that Jack was utterly terrified, Walter had no choice but to force him to sit down and then told Jack the truth. It turned out they were aliens from the planet Antelria. Over 10,000 years ago, they established a base on Earth, which was the Atlantis civilization people often talk about. When the Great Disaster struck, and Atlantis sank beneath the ocean, during their emergency evacuation of everyone, they accidentally left some ground crew behind on Earth. Their return to Earth now was solely to retrieve the ground crew, and they had no intention of harming humans. If Jack didn't want to continue renting the ship to them, they would rent a ship from someone else, but they still had to complete their mission. Upon hearing this, Jack finally stopped being afraid and agreed to help the aliens rescue their companions. For the next few days, they would pull several large oysters from the water every day and then sail the ship back to the dock. Nearby, they rented an empty swimming pool specifically to store the oysters. However, what they didn't know was that next to the swimming pool was a nursing home. In the home, there were 3 mischievous elderly people who often sneaked in to swim.